take Victor Ullmann's string quartet. We only heard it, or we heard about it, because a lady in Germany has been focusing on finding these pieces, and we had to play out of handwritten material, which only survived because a friend of Victor Ullmann actually had a copy of the quartet, which then Ullmann, just before he was killed in Auschwitz, he destroyed the quartet, you know. But there existed a handwritten copy, which a friend had, and we played from copies of it.
So are you all comfy? Are you? Yes.
Yeah.
Now I can see you all. Yeah, that's great. Okay. So it's wonderful that we could talk, and your ensemble is called Korngold.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And tell me a little bit more about how you got together and about the ensemble.
I think the plan was already for some time to just put the group together, which mixes different repertoire. Because as you probably know, I also play in a string quartet, and each one of us does other stuff. But we saw that there's quite a lot of repertoire next to string quartet and next to piano trio, which is not so often performed. And so we just thought there's a good possibility to highlight pieces which are not on the main repertoire the whole time.
Okay.
So, and as we are all friends, we just thought that's a good way of making good music together with nice people.
Sympathy is very important, you know.
Because you spend a lot of time together, so
yeah,
we had to know each other.
Yeah, but this is something that I hear when I talk to ensembles or duos or trios or so, that they all say the same thing, that there has to be this chemistry between the players because you spend so much time together. So it's so important that you get along with each other.
Yes, it's important because we are also, you know, in rehearsals. I mean, there must be a good basis for trust as well. You know, you have to like, to trust and respect the others, and be in a continuous flow. You know, taking opinions and being criticized, and actually wishing to be criticized, because it's always a dynamic. It's an ongoing dynamic, you know, this working process. And it should be a very good human basis, otherwise it can get very, very difficult.
Yeah, also willing to take others' advices to kind of work with your own way of music making.
It's a little bit like, sorry.
No, say.
It's a little bit like even in a relationship, in a human relationship, if you're not willing to really get to the point, also in a relationship, and the quartet or an ensemble is the same, then you will never reach certain being together. I mean, really together. You need friction to be able to really come to the point. Otherwise, the whole thing stays on the surface, and this is what music and also the whole humanity shouldn't be about. So.
But isn't this something also that you as musicians learn from a very young age, to accept this, do we call it a criticism or a correction, or but that you don't take it personally, that you can take it as part of what you are doing rather than a personal insult? Do you know what I mean?
Of course, it depends.
Yeah.
Now, of course, you learn to deal with that. It's not to take it personally.
Yeah.
But you don't want to be only on the negative side, but you want to build up something, you see. So you have to be very, very open, and it has to grow, the whole ensemble, the whole group. So it's not only that, oh, okay, I don't take it personally, but I want, you know, opinions. I want to have this exchange, these ideas exchange. And only then it can develop into something really, something valuable, musically and from the human, of course. I mean, it's everything it's together, you know, the two components are the human component and the musical component.
Yeah. Okay, so now introduce the group then, tell me who are the members and what they are all doing.
Okay. I'm the violinist, one of the two.
Yeah.
I'm the other violinist.
Yeah.
You know already.
I'm the pianist.
Yeah.
And Cynthia, who's coming now, she is a violist.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
Right. And, our cellist, Jonas, he is from Prague.
Oh, I see. Okay.
He's available today. Yeah.
Mm. And now, how do you rehearse when he's not there?
We don't.
We don't. There are things you can rehearse. Sometimes I even rehearse with Tiffany at home because obviously in a lot of repertoire you have things where the two violins are either unison or in octaves, or so I think in a group it is possible to even rehearse not with everybody attending.
Right.
There's always things you can do, and with Jonas, he comes as often as he can. This year, obviously, he was not able so often because of the whole lockdown, Corona, whatever. But normally, he comes quite regularly because he's also one of the principal cellists of the Vienna Chamber Orchestra, the orchestra where Tiffany and me are playing. So he's normally also coming for rehearsals. So Vienna is, in a way, also a base for him. So it's not like he only comes every half year and then we rehearse for 2 days. So it's
he comes very often.
That wouldn't work for a group. Yeah. Yeah.
And now you said that the repertoire. What exactly is it that you are playing?
I mean, if we find out what next week in the London Festival is going to take place. Obviously, the Brahms Piano Quintet is one of the main chamber music pieces existing, which is very, very often performed by string quartets plus solo pianist. I do think that it is actually a difference because I know it from both sides. I used to have a piano quintet years ago, and now I'm in a quartet, and it is actually a difference whether you do all the rehearsals together as a quintet, or if you just have somebody, a pianist coming, and then you do a rehearsal, and then you play Schumann, Brahms, Dvorak, whatever quintet. It is a small difference. Of course, the quartet has a lot of work together to do, and the pianist will always be a little bit next to it, but ideally, I think the whole thing should be a group. But we are also playing pieces like, for example, next week there will be a piece out of the Tote Stadt from Erich Wolfgang Korngold, Marietta's song, which is transcribed for 2 versions. Either it is being played with a singer and the piano quintet, or just with the piano quintet. And this is the version we're going to play next week, which is a very, very beautiful song out of the Tote Stadt. And then the next piece we are playing there is a chamber music version of a piano concerto by Mozart, KV 414, which was done like that even in early days. There is some of the so-called chamber concerts of Mozart which can be done in a small version, because there is original versions by Mozart only for strings plus piano. And this is what we will.
And piano, so that's one of the cases.
So you don't feel there's something missing. And this is something which is not done very often, obviously, because pianists, solo pianists, they want to have the whole orchestra sitting there. So they don't want to play only with a string quartet. So this is why these pieces are not so often performed.
It's an intimate setting, to play it with a string quartet, and it's also talking about a pianist who's attending rehearsals all the time. I'm not coming only to play through once. Everybody knows the piece. They do their rehearsals, and the pianist comes to that. And then it's great because you constantly try to imagine how to adjust the piano sound to this sound of the strings. So that's actually very good, and I learned a lot. Actually about of string players and how they think and how they do it up technically also. It's very, very interesting, and I try to find my solutions to adjust to get a very homogeneous sound. Yeah.
And how does that? Is it risky to do what you are doing in this industry? To do something new or to do something different?
No.
Risky.
Well, there are always listeners who are willing to listen to what is not so overplayed. Like every concert venues, every year they have same soloists. They have a very predictable programs, and you have listeners who cannot wait to hear something just very different.
We played last season, for instance, the trio, the piano trio of Korngold. So we are not always string quartet and piano, but we act sometimes as a piano trio or duos, string duos, and there were pieces that really, I mean, we played pieces that are not so often not so often heard. So I think that's great, and it's very refreshing.
Yeah. Also great pieces
for us and for the audience.
Yeah, but I had a conversation with a violinist once about this specific topic, and that is that if musicians don't change what we hear, and we are just always listening to the same things, then of course we will never know anything different. But now that you are doing something different, it's actually then a way of educating also the audience to be open for something else or something different.
I think that you have to find a mixture. I don't think we would be playing too many concerts if we just go for the hidden pieces which nobody knows and has ever heard of. And I think most groups try to find a mixture. I mean, for example, like we're doing next week, obviously this Korngold piece is, I don't know how often it has been played in Vienna, not very often. But then we put Brahms Piano Quintet in, which is one of the big German music pieces of the 19th century. So the audience will get a mixture of everything. I don't think I would risk to play only unknown music. Then you have a problem because you might have some very interested organizers who like that, but then you have other people who just don't book you because they say, look, we cannot sell any tickets if you just put Korngold and Schoenberg or whatever on the program and nothing else, So I think that would be risky if you just want to focus on completely hidden things. I mean, take next week's festival, which is exactly highlighting that. Of course, we are dedicating a lot of the program to composers which were either persecuted or even killed in concentration camps or had to leave their countries. So a lot of the repertoire is like that, but next to it, we play Razumovsky, Beethoven, and we play Schumann Quintet, and we play Brahms Quintet. So we mix. And the interesting thing about a festival like that is that the people can actually hear that there is a lot of music which has been not played, has been hidden, has been disappeared for many years, which is on the level as some of the top pieces ever written. So you have these composers like Schulhoff, Hans Krascher, or Korngold, or Ullmann, which are top composers, which were very unfortunate that they were not able to live as a composer long enough to have a legacy. And only in the last maybe 20, 25 years, it started that people are looking out for these composers. And this is what we do also in the ensemble, in the Korngold ensemble, to have, of course, a mainstream repertoire, otherwise you cannot survive. But next to it, put pieces which are not so often performed.
And what was the inspiration to choose these composers, the music of these composers?
What is kind of our main theme to form this group, to focus on
those pieces?
The pieces which are not so often performed.
Yeah. But I mean, for those specific composers that you chose, what was the reason that, was it just because they are not played very often, or was there is there a different connection between all the composers, the music that you are playing?
Yeah, the connection is I think it's not that they are only not often performed. For example, you have pieces by famous composers which are not often performed, but for the reason that they maybe are not as successful or as good as other pieces.
Yeah.
But especially in the situation of Endarte de Musik during the Nazi time, there was a lot of composers who were forbidden. And I think this is what unifies our program, to find pieces which nobody has heard. We, in the course of my quartet, for example, we have played pieces which have been lost for 40, 50 years. Take Victor Ullmann's string quartet. We only heard it, or we heard about it, because a lady in Germany has been focusing on finding these pieces, and we had to play out of handwritten material, which only survived because a friend of Victor Ullmann actually had a copy of the quartet, which then Ullmann, just before he was killed in Auschwitz, he destroyed the quartet, But there existed a handwritten copy, which a friend had, and we played from copies of that. I mean, this kind of music. Yeah. And this is top pieces. This is really outstanding pieces on a level with Bartók, on a level with Britten and all these people. It's top class pieces.
But how did you find this? I mean, how did you discover where to look for these?
There are people, there is, for example, this Heidi Marie Ambros in Germany. She has been focusing, she was the first one who put us on these composers when we were, that was actually still with my piano quintet, with Korngold Ensemble, where we the first time, I think almost 30 years ago, played a whole concert in Heidelberg only with composers from Theresienstadt. Theresienstadt is the city which unifies many of these, especially the Jewish composers, because you know about the story about Theresienstadt, I assume, right?
No, I don't.
Theresienstadt, or so-called Teresin, is a city in Czechia, which was a city of 6,000 inhabitants. And the Nazi regime actually put it up to 80,000 people into that city, all Jewish or for political reasons persecuted people. And they had some of the best musicians, some of the best scientists, doctors, everybody was living there together.
Basically a concentration camp.
I mean, maybe you heard about this famous movie which was done, Der Führer schenkt den Juden eine Stadt.
No,
which was a very famous movie actually done for the Red Cross to show that the Führer, Hitler, gave a whole city to the Jews so they could live within themselves. But and they invited the Red Cross to have a look how well it is. What a propaganda movie, and many of these people very shortly after that movie was done were shipped to Auschwitz. So this whole thing was basically just to put people together, and in that situation, of course, you can imagine if 80,000 people, and most of them, or many of them, intellectuals, doctors, musicians, artists, everything, they were all crammed together in a space which was for 6,000 people, and now suddenly there were 80,000 people together at the same time, And in that period, you had obviously many composers, many Jewish composers who were brought there as well. So a lot of the music was actually written there in the concentration camp, sometimes with very strange mixtures of instruments, because they had to take what they could get. They had to, I mean, for example, take the famous The Emperor of Atlantis, the Kaiser von Atlantis from Victor Ullmann, which is a very famous opera. The setup, meaning the musicians, is the strangest mixture you can ever have seen, because that was the people he had. He had to write something for the musicians who were around at the time, because he never knew how long he would have them, because maybe the week after they've already brought some concentration camps. So this was how this was.
This is so interesting.
And it's, it's Viennese music history. I mean, you do, if you live in Vienna, of course you do play a lot of Schoenberg, or I mean, of course you get in contact with it. And then most of those people were his pupils. And it's
really,
you want to get to know the pieces, to get to know the music. So it's then I mean, you get there eventually, if it's if you're interested.
But this is such a great dedication to these people, to play the music and to let the music be heard that they wrote. I find it very touching, really, that you do this.
Quite honestly, I don't feel at all that we deserve a big praise for doing it, because I wouldn't, I mean, that sounds maybe hard now, I wouldn't play a composer only for the reason because he was persecuted if the music is not good. But because this would be charity then, which is great. But each one of these pieces which we have found are top pieces, and that means it's fulfilling for us. It's not, we're not giving a favor to these composers so they are eventually played. It's nothing of that. It's pieces who can stand up to all the big pieces, the pieces written in the 20th century.
And they get eventually into the broad repertoire. It takes a bit of time. They find then their place, also in the concert halls.
Do you talk about this when you play? I mean, do you talk to your audience and explain to them where these pieces come from?
During the festival next week, there's almost in front of, I actually should know how it is this year, but we always have people speaking before the program about a certain topic. We've had situations where we've had even somebody like Horowitz, the composer, not the pianist, who lives in London. We played a piece by him, and he is one of the people who left Vienna, who had to leave Vienna. And he went to Joseph Horowitz. He then lived in London. And he came and he spoke about the time and how he left. Or when we played pieces by Weinberg and Shostakovich, we had somebody who personally knew Shostakovich coming and speaking before the program, So we always try to find the context. Or we've had the grandson of Schoenberg coming, or the daughter-in-law of Schoenberg coming and speaking before the concert. So I mean, we always try to find the contact, because we do believe that it is very important to build a bridge from the musicians to the audience. Because if you just come and throw the pieces at them, okay, they can read the program, but it's a different thing. I mean, especially if you can provide somebody who has a direct connection to the time, or even a relative of that person, to speak and to share his opinion and his experiences.
I do think this is important, for me, this is always makes it a different way of listening then, I think, if you understand where it comes from, because I think in this sense, the history, the background, and the music as well. And it's great that you do it this way. Now, I think this is wonderful what you're doing. It should be done, that these great pieces, I understand what you're saying about that you just don't do it for the charity of it, but still, if these are great pieces, then they need to be heard.
Exactly.
So congratulations for that, Now, tell me on a lighter note, what do you do before a performance? Do you have little rituals that you do?
I always eat
practice.
Practice
the whole night. Don't go to sleep until the last 5 minutes before the performance.
Really?
No, you don't. Of course not.
I need to eat either a bowl of cereal or a banana before the concert.
Oh, really?
Yeah, need something in the stomach. There are some musicians who need an empty stomach. I need a full stomach. Otherwise, I just get uneasy. I need a solid base, so to say.
Yeah, I have to sleep.
Yeah, me too. to take a nap. That's very important.
Very important.
But I haven't heard of a bowl of cereal yet. I've heard of sushi and I've heard of pasta, but I haven't heard that anybody eats a bowl of cereal. So you're the first.
It gives me a good feeling.
Yeah, okay. And afterwards, are you a beer man or a wine man?
Wine.
Wine.
Red
Wine. And you also, Tiffany, a wine. Yeah. No, that's also interesting for me to hear how do you wind down after a concert?
Oh, sometimes not at all. I mean, that's really a problem. It's nice to drink wine, but wine and concert, for me, the combination can be really quite difficult after, because you're so excited, and it's sometimes I can't sleep the whole night actually after the concert, because you listen everything once more, and in your you kind of recall everything.
Replay it.
It's
really
incredible state of mind. It's very very wie heißt das, wenn man so einen hohen Level von Adrenalin. The adrenaline is very
adrenaline, yeah.
And I need a long time to come down, actually. That's
really.
So a good walk after a concert is sometimes better.
Oh, really? And but are you self-critical after a concert, or are you just happy that it's done?
Extremely self-critical, I think, all of us.
Really?
No.
Unfortunately.
I always focus on the things which didn't go the way I wanted.
Okay.
I think that's why we understand each other. So
really? Okay.
Because we are all the same.
Oh, really?
My people who know me for a long time, they remember when I was still studying, after the class recitals, I always recorded my concerts. And while everybody was already with the beer, I was sitting in the corner with the headphones, listening to the passages which don't go the way I wanted.
Oh, really?
So hating myself for it. No, I'm famous for that.
Yeah, that's the way to improve,
Oh, yeah,
also,
of course. Yeah.
But sometimes, sometimes one has the feeling that sometimes it goes well. And then it's an amazing thing of inner freedom. It's kind of, you can breathe. It's a wonderful feeling of, I don't know, being light or whatever, It's kind of, that went well. There are moments of acceptance, let's say.
But I do agree that self-critical up to a point, but if you're not, you cannot improve. So I think that is sometimes a advantage if you're a little bit self-critical. But
you have to be aware, first of all, aware of what is going on, what happened,
Yeah.
And actually, it's not a very negative thing, because in the moment you are, it's clear for yourself. Then it's kind of half done, because then next time it won't just happen.
Yeah.
It's kind of awareness that's very important, and concentration.
And while you are so thinking about that, the audience probably goes home and say, "Oh, wow, what a wonderful performance that was," and not even know if you made any mistakes or played anything wrong.
Exactly. I think 99% of mistakes only we are aware of, not the audience.
Yeah.
It's quite interesting how different the feeling you have yourself of a concert be with what the audience gets from it. Sometimes you feel, you actually played very good, and you get a nice response, but nothing. And sometimes you have the feeling, I was fighting the whole concert, not feeling, I was stiff, and nothing really went the way. And people come and they're completely excited, And I spoke to I'm not going to mention the name because he's a very famous man. And he told me they played once in a radio concert in Holland, Alban Berg, Opus 3, which is a very difficult quartet. And he said they were really, from the first to the last note, all over the place. It was just completely not together and everywhere. And they had critics from knowledgeable people after who said they haven't heard the quartet as good for a long time.
Really?
And you think, what is it really? What is transported? Of course, as a musician, you are very much in danger of putting a lot of weight on how perfect you played, how everything you were trying to achieve technically or the difficult passages worked well. But one has to realize that maybe you have a couple of colleagues in the audience who can appreciate that, but maybe 98% of the audience is listening to a completely different thing. And maybe this feeling of that you are actually fighting for your own whatever body and shortcomings and everything creates some kind of tension, which is also a tension for the audience, which makes it exciting, you know. And and if you can play everything perfect and nail everything, it might be not so interesting for the outside, you know. So
but this is what I'm thinking is my daughter and my son are ballet dancers, and they sometimes are also so self-critical, you know, when they come from the stage. And then I sit there and I think, oh, you know, it was all well and it all went well. And then they point out things and I say, well, I didn't see it or I didn't notice it. And I think it's because, well, my idea, what I think is that the biggest part of the audience are not that, educated in being able to spot when something goes wrong. Do you know what I mean? It's they're there to have the whole experience. Maybe there are some in the audience that knows the music that well or know how it, you know, technical side of things or with ballet. So I think the majority of the audience come for what they can receive, you know, and they are not looking or they are not hearing the mistakes or the things that didn't go wrong or didn't go right. Yeah. So this is what I sometimes think.
Yeah, no, I think it's good to know that music is more than playing all the nights, all the right notes at the right time.
Yeah.
Transport.
So of course it's nice if difficult passages you have been practicing for many hours in the concert work. That gives yourself a good feeling, but it does not mean that it was a great concert. Not necessarily.
Yeah. No, that's true. But this was so lovely to talk to you, and I'm really touched about what you do and the music that you chose, and I wish you the best of luck with your concert. Just tell me, when is the concert again? It's next week?
Next Tuesday, the 24th, at 7:30 in the Schloss Laudon, which is at the outskirts of Vienna. It's a very, very beautiful castle. It's a water castle, actually.
It's the only water castle in Vienna.
And it has a beautiful hall with a very, very nice acoustic, and also it is optically very beautiful. It has frescoes in the whole room. It's a very, very... So there's many good reasons to come to the concert, apart from nice music. But it's a very nice location, and
it's quite well sold.
It's quite well sold, yeah, that's true. So if people want to come, they should look into tickets very soon.
And the next concert is the 18th of September in Klagenfurt, in a very, very nice festival. It's called Burghop. So we play the same program 3 weeks later.
Oh, I see. Okay. I find your this whole project of the music that you play so fascinating. Well, all the best, and we'll speak again soon. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Bye.